What's biz niches? I don't even know what that means. I'm back. That's why they call me Britt Perkins. I'm back. A murderer rhyme. I think I've done that joke before, which makes it even less funny to me. So you're not going to find it funny at all. So welcome to I Swear to Drunk I'm Not God. This is episode 9, pot 2. I hope you went back and you listened to part 1. If you didn't, then I completely respect that because I'm one of those people too. We're the same. I don't like listening to part 1s and part 2s with that. Like, I've become one of those people like, episodic release is not good for me. Don't give me the whole series. Like when Raising Kanan came back, it took it a minute. And I told my mom, I was like, I'm not watching this shit until it's over. Cause I can't deal with the cliffhangers no more. Like, I've turned into one of those kids that need like immediate gratification. And if I don't have it, then I turn into a child. So I am, I'm me. Meanwhile, how was your day? Was your day good? My day was good. I enjoyed myself. I had some fun, did some work, finished this episode because I wasn't prepared. My boss conveniently hit me up and was like, you all want to stay at home? I was like, sure. It's cool having a cool ass boss. You hear me? It's cool having a cool ass fucking boss. So, all right. So let's talk about it. We're going to go into episode 9, part 2. I'm not drunk. Okay. I just would like to preface that because I know some of y'all be secretly judging me like, damn, this bitch drink a lot. I do. You know what? Fuck it. Let's just go ahead and get it out and open. I do drink a lot. And, some motherfuckers smoke a lot. I don't smoke a lot. I drink a lot. I don't smoke at all. Actually, I drink. So you can't, let's just be real. There's some people who need to smoke like on their lunch break. I don't drink on my lunch break. That's probably half a lie. But I also, you know what I mean? Like this is the vice that I enjoy. Some people got a cocaine addiction. I don't. Some people have cigarette problem. I don't. Some people smoke cigarillos. I don't know who does, but whatever. If that's still a thing somewhere, somebody is still smoking Black and Milds. If there's a motherfucker that's just chronically smoke weed, if there's somebody that smokes cloves and they just like need to do it all the time, boom, cool, right? Like that's their vice. But my vice is to like vibe out with ridiculous amounts of different types of spirits and like doing shit with those spirits, like mixing them with other shit and seeing, how my body feels, I'm sure the FDA would just flat out call it binge drinking, but I don't care. I had actually come to grips with the fact that actually not the FDA, the CDC like basically called me a drunk. And I learned that during the pandemic because I was like, you know what I mean? Like, what is this? Like I don't go to it for like emotional support. I don't go to alcohol for emotional support. I'd like to say that this is me making an excuse for over drinking, but I don't go to it for emotional support. I do it because I like to celebrate life all the fucking time. That's it. So if you're a hedonist like me, toot, and you like to vibe out with what you like to vibe out on, I will tell you one thing. When I'm sad, I don't like to drink. Isn't that weird? Like when I'm fucked up in the head, I don't like to drink. When I'm in the middle of a breakup or some douchebag did something terrible to me, I do not want to drink because I enjoy drinking so much that I don't want my ability to drink to be tainted by some dickhead that I was fucking with, So sip. I hope that makes it better for you. If this is the first time you've ever like been here to I Swear to Drunk I'm Not God, just know what I do here is solely a hobby. I don't make any money off of this. So I basically use this as an opportunity to just do whatever I want and like speak on topics. That is all, right? I have zero sponsors. I get zero support, like financially. If anything, I fund this operation. Okay. So I feel like I could do whatever the fuck I want when I'm on the mic. You heard? And additionally, I find myself, I forgot my point. Oh, so with that being said, when I have two parters, I keep the drink the same as the first part. So the first part, the poison on that one was the Negroni Sbagliato, and that was prosecco or sparkling wine. I added an ounce of gin that time, 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, a half ounce of Campari, and you top it off with club soda. And if you're into garnishing, then you garnish it with the lime wheel. The Sbagliato was accidentally created by a bartender who was making a Negroni, but he accidentally grabbed the Prosecco instead of the gin. And because I am a fucking lush, on the last episode, I added an ounce of gin and I was fucked up. So if you haven't listened to part 1, go back to part 1 and you will see how slurred and ridiculous, excuse me, I was during that episode. Also, I also would like to say that Boo Boo Potty. I call her Boo Boo Potty sometimes. That's Luna. Luna is sitting on my lap. She's my ride or die right now. So the book. So the book that I read, I didn't mention it in the first episode. I've actually listened to the episode a few times and I was like, Brittany, you being disrespectful as fuck because you read a book. And I did. I read a book. It was called If I Can't Have You. The book was called If I Can't Have You. It was written by Greg Olson and Rebecca Morris. So it's very riveting. I highly suggest going to check it out. It's actually on Kindle. And I really appreciated that because you could like read. When I'm doing my synopsis, I like to read and listen. You know what I mean? But if you know me, if you ever sat down and watched a movie with me, I also like to watch movies with subtitles and shit because I like to read and watch. So I'll post the link. Excuse me. I'll post a link if you're interested at all in this book because I will say it's definitely worth the read. I also watched The Disappearance of Susan Cox Powell, which I think I mentioned on the last episode. I can't really remember, but I got to be better about making sure that I let you all know what some of my sources were. And then of course I go ahead and I look at the internet and Reddit and all these other things to find like some pieces that I ask questions here and there. And then I need to know, check some news or whatever, all that shit. It's a relatively new case, so it's not really that old. So anyway, so with that being said, go take a sip of your Sbagliato. I'm not drinking that because, your girl just, slipped and fell and accidentally like fucking spent $37 on a bottle of Aperol, which is silly as fuck. But the store across the street had it and I didn't feel like going anywhere else. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna pay the extra $6, because, follow me for financial advice. My laziness put me $6 in the hole. That's my fault, but it is what it is. And so, yeah, let's do that. So let's dive in. I'm already 10 minutes in. Pussycat, please do not chew on mommy's microphone. She like, bitch, this armrest is mine. I'm actually drinking a gin lemon drop that I made and it is swell. I'm saying a gin lemon drop, but it's actually 2 gin lemon drops in 1 cup. So 2 gins, 1 cup. Remember that video? 2 girls, 1 cup. Shut up. What a time to be alive. 2 girls, 1 cup. All right, let's do this. Susan Cox Powell, season 2, episode 9, part 2. Now, I'm gonna go back a little bit. So I don't like doing full recaps. So if you're new to my, this situation, then you know that I don't do full recaps. I kind of just give you like the ass end of the last episode because I want you to go back to the first episode and read it or whatever. You know what I mean? Listen to it. But this is what we know. So between July 2008 and December 2009, several events occurred in Susan Powell's life. She was having marital problems. Susan Powell's marriage to Josh Powell was reportedly strained during this period. There were reports of marital discord and tensions within the relationships, including disagreements over finances and Josh's controlling behavior. And despite her faith, Susan decided to leave Josh. She had given him more than enough chances to get his act together with no go. She was afraid of what Josh would ultimately do to her and what he would do to the boys if she truly left him. Then in 2008, she moved to Utah. Susan and Josh Powell moved to West Valley, Utah from their previous residence, which was in Washington State. And this was because of Josh's creepy fucking father, Steve, who was obsessed with her. And I'm gonna say this, I keep calling that man Steve like I fucking know him, and I keep calling Josh like I know him, and I don't know neither one of them niggas. So let's be clear. Josh's name is Joshua. Steve's name is Steven. I don't want y'all to think like, damn, this bitch giving him nicknames. Like, I'm not. I just literally shorten everybody's names because my tongue is lazy, you know? So anyway, Steve was obsessed with her. It was because, well, it was believed that Steve was possibly hoping for a breakup so he could be with her. Steve wrote this in his journal, quote, Theirs is truly a marriage in hell. It's hard to believe that two people could be so nasty to each other. In public, they look like the loveliest couple, but in private, they have no respect for each other and little love. This is what Josh's father said about his own son and his marriage to the woman that he is in love with. Yeah, that was a mouthful. Now, Susan and Josh would welcome their second son, Braden Powell. This happened in January of 2009. Now, this added to the responsibilities and stresses within the family. Then there were the financial struggles. The Powell family faced financial difficulties during this time. Josh Powell declared bankruptcy in 2007, and the couple reportedly struggled to make ends meet. Now, Susan worked as a stockbroker, but it's unclear whether she was still employed during this period. Financial strains may have contributed to the challenges in their relationship, and Susan, for a period, was the sole provider. Now, there were reports of Josh Powell's controlling and domineering behavior, which caused concern among Susan's friends and family. Some accounts suggest that Josh isolated Susan from her loved ones and exerted control over her. She even suspected that he started to look at porn on his computer, so much so that she tried to snoop but couldn't because of his privacy settings and protections. Now, the couple reportedly sought marital counseling in an attempt to address their relationship issues. However, it's unclear how successful these efforts were in resolving their problems. Now, Josh would stop going, and he would also refuse to take medication because he believed that the medication would ultimately hinder his success as a real estate person, real estate guy. I don't even know what the fuck it called. I can't call him an agent because I'm not sure that he sold anything. Now, Susan maintained a personal journal as well, which later became a key piece of evidence in the investigation into her disappearance. And entries in her journal reportedly detailed her feelings of fear and apprehension regarding her husband's behavior. And she also recorded a video for her personal records to catalog their possessions. Now, I only played 3 minutes in the first episode, but the video is 44 minutes long. Go to YouTube to go see it. I'll post it in this one since we've already talked about it in the last episode. And so here we are. We now know that after speaking to Susan's friend Giovanna and telling her that he didn't go to work because he thought it was Sunday, Josh picked up his phone to leave a voicemail on Susan's phone, which was in his possession. For 2 hours, Josh didn't answer a single call or text. He drove 20 miles around West Valley City and stopped to get his van washed. At around 5:45 p.m., Josh called Susan's phone again to tell her that he was at the Wells Fargo building where she worked. And he asked her if she needed a ride home. Why you do that, Josh? Now, after that, he called Jennifer, his sister. She asked where he was. He said he was at work. She said, "You're lying. Where are the boys?" He said, "They're safe." She asked, "Where's Susan?" He said, "I don't know. Work, I guess." Jennifer told him that that wasn't true. Josh asked, "How much do you know?" She asked, why would you ask that? Click. He hung up. Chuck was talking to Jennifer and listening to the conversation quietly on the other line. Chuck and Jen began to take notes on everything Josh said. Now, Josh Powell returned home at around 6:40 p.m. on December 7, 2009, claiming that at midnight he decided to take their two sons on a camping trip while Susan was still in bed. Sounds a lot like the Bradley sisters, doesn't it? Don't know if you all listened to that episode. That is actually one of my most popular episodes. Me and my sister was fucking going in on her mom, the Bradley sisters' because she fucking, never mind. I'm not even going to go there because I'm still trying to figure out like what niggas in Chicago go camping, but I'm going to let you have that. I'm going to let you have that, sir. Go back and listen to that episode because it's fucking stupid. Now, oh, my eye is itching. Okay, so the reason he didn't call his job was because he mixed up the days and he was afraid of being fired. He also claimed that he missed all of the calls because he kept his phone off to preserve the battery and he didn't have his charger. Didn't matter anyway. They were out in the desert. There was no reception. He did mention Susan's cell phone, though, but couldn't really say why the phone was in the car. So they tell Josh that it's high time that they head to the station for formal questioning. Charlie and Braden needed to come too. The interview with Josh lasted 2 hours. Josh was fucking nervous. He couldn't remember what Susan was wearing. He just said she was tired. She lay down. Later, he claimed she got out of bed. They watched one of the Santa Claus movies while eating hot dogs. Braden went to sleep. So Josh took Charlie to sled in the park, and when they got home, Susan was watching TV. He read the boys a story, then started cleaning the couch with his new rug doctor. Then out of nowhere, he decides to take the boys camping, which Susan didn't want to do. Now, he claimed to have left after midnight, even though the report said it was cold, snow, and ice. And he said, and took the boys to Simpson Springs, 2 hours southwest of Salt Lake. They slept in the car and tried out the new generator for heat. And he even took firewood to make s'mores. Susan would have never allowed them to go camping in the winter. Detective Ellis Maxwell. So, where do you think she's at? Josh. I don't know. Has she ever done anything like this before? No, not missing work. Has she ever left like this? Left you and abandoned the kids? I mean, for the day, but not when it's a work day. Okay. Why did you miss work? Somehow I was thinking I didn't go to church. Therefore, tomorrow would be Sunday. And therefore, I didn't find at that time, I realized it. I was already stuck in the snowstorm. Did you guys have any arguments, any fighting the day before, the night before? No. Explain your relationship to me then. Really? Explain to me what about your guys' relationship, what it consists of and stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, we sometimes have disagreements, but yeah, everybody has disagreements, right? I think so. So nothing. It's nothing we get into screaming fights, or it's not like that or anything. Yeah. Well, not usually. It's happened a couple of times. Yeah. But it's very rare. Do you think she's in danger right now? Do you think she's hurt? Don't know. I don't think she would do that. You don't think she would do that? I don't think she would miss work. The detective asked Josh about Susan's friends. He couldn't think of anyone. Detective, let me tell you something. You're kind of being helpful, but you're not helpful. Cause I mean, I've been married and I can tell you who my wife's closest friends are. She talked to, you know what I'm saying. And I actually know who her closest friends are. And you're telling me that you can't tell me. Okay. She talks to, they redacted the name a lot. If you last seen her at midnight, that's the last time you've seen her. Nobody else has seen her or talked to her since. So she's basically been missing for about 20 hours. Okay. So where would you think she would be at? Does that concern you at all? I mean, just because it does. It does. It does concern you. Yes. Okay. So help me to figure out. I don't live with you. I don't live with her. Okay. You guys have been together for what? 7 years? Seems like it. Maybe 8. Okay. 8 years. You know her a hell of a lot better than I do. First, we're talking, excuse me. First, we're taking a report at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's kind of like a random sentence. Well, I think she would just go to work. All right. But she didn't go to work, dude. Josh would eventually consent to the search of his van. Now, there was no camping equipment. There were no sleeping bags. There was no food except for a few snacks. That evening at around 9 p.m., the police let Josh and the boys go. Neighbors saw Josh cleaning his van and going from the van to the garage over and over again. And when the police got their hands on both of the cell phones, they realized that they were missing fucking SIM cards. Sip. And let me clear my throat. Let me clear my throat. Now, prior to this, Chuck, who works for the FAA, by the way, he's a FAA investigator. He fucking investigates airplane crashes and shit. He thought that they had worked through their problems. He had even gone as far as telling the boys that their dad was a super father, and that wasn't how he really felt. He was just trying to keep communication open between them. The day after Susan was reported missing, Chuck got a call from Josh. He was fucking upset. At least, he seemed upset. They couldn't talk long, as Josh was already late for his second interview with the police. Josh showed up to that interview 4 hours late. Josh was not coming off at all concerned about Susan's disappearance. He was even more concerned with the broken window, because they broke his window when they first entered his home. He couldn't understand why they broke the window, because Debbie had a key. Debbie, who was the daycare owner who came to pick up the boys and realized that they were gone. He was also still reeling over the fact that Debbie even had a fucking key to begin with, because it was without his knowledge. He was not happy about that. When told that Debbie was not at the home when his sister Jennifer arrived, he didn't give a fuck. What he did care about was the fact that the police took pictures of his hands. He had cuts on his hands. Really a cut on his knuckle. And he was obsessed about it. This is what the detective said. I took photos of your hands one time. Josh. Well, I thought you were implying, you're saying, you really made a big deal out of this by asking you where you got a nick on your hand. I thought you were trying to say that I got some kind of defense wound, I never said that though, did I? It seemed implied. Okay, but all I did was inquired about a nick on your hand. Kind of get them, you've been worried about that ever since we got here today. You want me to take photos again of your hands? I kind of do. Okay, well, cause what does I want to have both photos available, Well, what does it tell you? I mean, I haven't came in here with the camera. I haven't even worried about your hands, but you're still worrying about it. Well, I just want my second photos, because I was just trying to prove that they do it on their own. What is he talking about? Well, he's talking about the fact that when he got to the police station, they took photos of his hands. And they took photos of his hands because his fucking hands were blistering red and they had cuts on them. Dried, cracked, red hands that I assume from the description is indicative of frostbite. And a few people had been witness to the fact that his hands were so fucked up. The police took a picture of him. And here he is a second time asking them to take another picture because he wants it verified that his hands are still like that and that his hands do that sometimes. Suspicious as fuck. I'm just gonna say that, but I'll continue. So then they ask him who has he spoken to since coming back home? The detective. Okay, did you talk to anybody last night? As trying to find out where she could have been? No? Okay. I talked to my dad and my family last night. Yeah. Why did he have any, could he help? I think, they just updated me the same things as other people did. And I'm not stuttering because I'm acting, because I am an actor. I'm not an actor, but whatever. I'm not stuttering. I'm stuttering because that's how the transcript reads. The shit, the stutters, the repeat. Okay. He goes, and you spoke to her dad, right? Today? Yeah. Was that today? Yeah, that was today. Did he have anything additional? No. Okay. All right. Have you called like any other places where she could be? I mean, have you checked any places where she could be? I haven't had much of a chance to do any of that yet. So then they ask, why was her purse there? So he goes, okay, any thoughts on why she would leave behind her purse? Well, she doesn't always take her purse because it's bulky, women go everywhere with their purse. That's where the hairspray is. Such a man thing to say. And he interrupts Josh. He goes, she, and then he says, and their makeup and their money. She doesn't always take it. Okay. I mean, what are some examples of some times where she wouldn't take it, where she wouldn't take her purse? I don't think she took it to that party. I don't think she takes it to church. Most of the time, if she doesn't, she just, she just going somewhere. That she doesn't, she needs anything. If she needs anything, she'll just leave it. Okay. But if she if she knew if we were going somewhere together, she frequently leaves it. Like, she assumes that I'll have like keys and stuff. Josh had done absolutely nothing to find Susan. He didn't call around. He didn't call her employer. He didn't call anyone. All he did was clean his fucking van. And when asked about her phone, he just said that he accidentally put it in his pocket when he was looking up a phone number. Don't believe you, Josh. You're joshing. I'm fucking 12. This isn't funny. Be serious. Okay, so this guy's a lot. This guy is an absolute lot. While he was in the interview, they were searching his house. They seized his computers and a large piece of carpet. Now, the carpet is key. When they first arrived in the home after breaking in, they found music loudly playing and 2 box fans angled down on a damp spot on the carpet and on the love seat. Now, they took the love seat and a rocking chair, and they found a pancake in the garbage and a few dirty rags in the tub. They took those. They got her purse, pictures, a Christmas tree, some notes on the fridge, and they also took photos of a series of blood droplets on the tile near the front door. They photographed everything. When asked about the damp spots. Okay, so so you clean the couch and so she wanted you, so was the couch dirty? Was there a stain on the couch or something? Josh, it's just all goobers and snot from kids, when they wipe their noses on it. And okay, they just do brutal things to the furniture, like the other couch needs it too. Okay, and when you talk to Susan about taking the kids and doing s'mores and tell me more details on that conversation. She just, she told me, I told her that I wanted to, and she just said, heater, you can't take the boys out in the cold without a heater. And I'm like, yep, I got my heater. I got my generator. Okay. And that was it. That's basically, it wasn't a long conversation. Okay. So she didn't inquire as to when you'd be back, when you were going, where you were going. I told her I'd be back. I said, I'll come back in the morning. Okay. And then with the snowfall, I got up a little later in the morning. Then I was planning, plus, the boys were loving it. We kept seeing like deer and sheep. So back at the precinct, Josh read his Miranda rights, just so he was aware of what his rights were. Josh could leave. He said he would need a couple of days to think about whether or not he wanted to answer any more questions. That's what he told him. His energy of this shit ain't got nothing to do with me. You need to stop. You need to stop talking to me about this shit, because this shit ain't got nothing to do with me. And they're kind of like, nigga, we know that it has something to do with you. Like, be fucking for real. In the meantime, Charlie, the oldest child, was being questioned at the South Valley Children's Justice Center. This dog is such a fucking nuisance. Okay, I'm gonna need you to chill. Just do something. Just fucking sit here. I'm sorry, y'all. So they asked Charlie what he did Sunday night. He said, go camping. He said he was with his dad, his mom, and his little brother. When asked where, he told them, Dinosaur National Park, 250 miles east of Salt Lake City and nowhere near Simpson Springs. They asked him if he knew where his mommy was. He said, at work. When asked who came home with him, Charlie said his dad, and his mom stayed at Dinosaur National Park. He said, she's where the crystals are. What y'all think that mean? No, out of curiosity. You think that means something good? Detective Kim Waitley. How come mommy stayed? Because it had so much pretty, because it has so much pretty where the crystals grow. When they confronted Josh with the new information about Susan not returning, Josh said, she did not go with us. The detective. Well, here's the thing. Kids are very honest. That's one thing I've learned in the years of doing this job, that when kids talk to us, we listen because they're honest. They never lie. They don't make things up. So they're saying they were with you. They were with you. Okay. So that means she was with you. So I have to believe the kids. So now it's going to be up to you if you want to help us find her and help us get to the bottom of what really happened here. That's what we're here for. Okay. We're going to find out either way, with your help or without your help. I honestly don't need your help. I feel confident enough in my investigation and in this investigation and everybody else involved. We have great detectives in this department that will find out what happened, that will get down to the bottom of this with your help or without your help. So I want to give you the opportunity to help us and tell us what really happened. Because you're the only one that knows. Josh, there's nothing that happened. She was not with us. If my kids said that, so your kids lie then. So your kids lie? Josh, sometimes they do. I mean, if they said that she was with us, they know that's not true. So if they say, and if they said that she was with us, then what? Then I guess that would put her out in the Pony Express. Now, the Pony Express Trail stretches across Utah desert, and Simpson Springs is a part of it. Historically, it was used in the 1800s to deliver mail. It stretched for 1,800 miles from Missouri to California. And Josh explained to investigators that people don't camp in the summer, but people go out there in the winter. He also admitted that he didn't talk to anyone while he was out there. They were out there alone. But later, Josh remembered that he ran into a sheep herder on the morning of December 7th, and the police were able to find 2 sheep herders that remember seeing a silver van on the road that morning. On December 11th, they put a tracking device on Josh's vehicle. He drove from West Valley City to a strip club in Nevada. Josh brought Braden and Charlie with him and knew that he was being followed. He started driving in circles and getting on and off ramps, so the police called in aerial surveillance. They wanted him to help. They wanted him to help them search or even take them to the campsite, but he was too busy playing with them. And they followed him to a gravel pit, and they stayed there for 2 hours, only for them to find fucking nothing. He was fucking with them. And while Josh was being Josh, Chuck was being Chuck. He spent time looking for his fucking daughter. And she had been gone, for 6 days. And when he learned from one coworker that she had kept a journal at work, here's what we learned from Susan's journals. 1, Susan expressed fear and concerns about her relationship with Josh constantly. She reportedly documented instances of Josh's fucking behavior, him being controlling, him being emotionally abusive, and other issues that was going on in their marriage. She also wrote about her feelings of being isolated, being restricted in her relationship with Josh. There were reports that Josh attempted to control who Susan even interacted with and limited her contact with her friends and her fucking family. Susan's journals may have also revealed her emotional distress and struggles with her fucking marriage. They could have provided insight into her state of mind leading up to the disappearance, which, by the way, there was some question of whether or not Susan was suicidal. And Josh tried to confirm that she was. She fucking wasn't. She also expressed her desire for change. Suicidal people don't do this. It's possible that Susan expressed a desire for a change or improvement in her situation. Her journals contained all these different reflections on her hope for the future and her attempts to address the issues within her marriage, including fucking counseling that Josh could not consistently go to. Susan also documented specific incidents or arguments that occurred between her and Josh, providing a timeline of the events leading up to her disappearance. Now, basically, Susan Powell's journals gave them a good look into her relationship with Josh and how she was feeling before she vanished. And she left an informal will in her safe deposit box. On June 28, 2008, Susan wrote, excuse me, god damn. It's like I have a voice within a voice. I'm so fucking wheezy. She said, quote, I want it documented somewhere that there is extreme turmoil in our marriage. If something happens to me, please talk to my sister-in-law, Jenny Graves, my friend, Kiersey Hellowell. Check my blogs on MySpace. Check my work desk. Talk to my friends, coworkers, and family. If I die, it may not be an accident, even if it looks like one. Take care of my boys. I want my parents, Judy and Chuck Cox, very involved and in charge of Charlie and Braden. I love you, Charlie and Braden, and I'm sorry you've seen how wrong, messed up our marriage is. I would never leave you. I'm gonna say this. Now I've read this, and that first episode I was pretty hard and pretty shitty to Susan Cox, and I'm not saying that I am pulling back from anything that I said in that episode, because at the end of the day, I still kind of feel that way, because there were many things that she just blatantly ignored. And obviously she never deserved whatever happened to her. She didn't deserve to disappear. She didn't deserve to be killed or whatever happened to her. She didn't deserve any of those things. But what I was trying to say, now that I'm relatively lucid, was simply that she left breadcrumbs and was given more than enough opportunity to leave. And I know there's the real excuse is that, well, she was afraid of what Josh would do to her and what he would do to the kids and all of that other stuff. But to me, and what I was trying to get to in the end of the first episode, was that it's worth a fucking shot. If you think there's a likelihood it's going to happen anyway. Because leaving a letter like this in a safe deposit box tells me that you figured it was going to happen anyway. So take the shot. See if you win. Take the shot. See if you get out. Take it. I would rather take it than not take it. And I talked about this in an episode I did with Lauren on Ayanna Kasian, when we talked about my situation. And, I thankfully didn't have any children that were harmed, but I had a dog that was harmed. That you should take it. I should have took it. And so when I was speaking violently towards Susan, I was thinking about my own situation too. It was partly projection, because part of me was just like, I should have done something sooner. And I sacrificed my dog in the process. And I've had to accept that reality about my situation. I've had to accept that part of my decision. And and obviously Susan Cox Powell is not here to accept that part of her decision. But to be in that type of situation and to have so many people who love you and who know what's going on and who are willing to support your decision to truly save yourself, over trying to save this marriage, that's where I lost the sympathy. Or empathy. And so that's what I meant in that first episode, is that you have to do it. You just got to do it. You can't say you want to do it and you're thinking about doing it. You got to do it, because sometimes the alternative is much worse than you just fucking doing it. So my bad for, being so negative in that first episode, but that was coming from a personal place too, of me also feeling that sort of regret towards my situation, knowing what I knew and having the power to make the decisions, to have the power to make better decisions. So yeah, there's that. But so, yeah, I do want to say, if anybody listened to that, and was offended by my comment on that, it wasn't because it was coming from an empty place of like lack of understanding. It was because I completely understand. And that's kind of how I felt about myself. So hope that clears that up. Now, Josh is not looking good at this point. I mean, he went to the police station on December 15th and he was so nervous that they couldn't even draw blood from his DNA. Like, he just made a complete dickhole of himself. Josh refused a polygraph as well. And this was under the advice of his attorney. He also would not tell them where they had gone camping. The next day, Josh had been named a person of interest. Now, this got them access to his computers, phones, and mobile records, as well as bank accounts. Well, because he didn't look suspicious enough, he cancels all of Susan's upcoming appointments. He withdraws all the money from her IRA. And then Josh decides to stay with his father in Puyallup, Washington for the holidays and to celebrate Steve's birthday. He also needed help with his kids. Josh didn't know how to do anything. So his sister Elena was going to be able to help him with that. Now, when he got there, he told his father and his sister that Susan was likely having an affair and that she was pregnant. While he was with his family, the police were trying to get, warrants to track his van and, obviously monitor his phone calls and his father's and his sister's, as well as any internet use by Josh or his brother Mike. Now, Mike and Elena were involved in a distraction set up by Josh so he and the boys could get out of town because Josh was kind of in the middle of a media blitz. They were harassing them and just questioning them, and he was kind of getting sick of it. And typically that's what happens. Innocent people like to utilize the media sometimes. Luna, I wish you would fuck all the way off. Like, super seriously. Because you needy as hell. You've been acting up all fucking day. Hold on one second. Luna, sit down. Down. God damn, how did I pick the most fucking codependent ass dog ever? She's a puppy. Shut up, Brittany. You're being a bitch. Anyway, so on December 22nd, Mike and Elena drove to Puyallup in Mike's 1997 Ford Taurus when it broke down, as it would. That's petty. I'm being a bitch. Whatever. Fuck them. But yeah, that's petty. So they had to have it towed. But instead of getting it fixed, Mike sold it for $100 to Lindell's Auto and Truck Parts. Why would he do that, do you think? Family member came and picked him up. Why would he do that? Why would you sell your car? We'll buy your car, even if you don't buy ours. Do you remember that commercial in Chicago? We'll buy your car, even if you don't buy ours. Why would he do that? By January and February, By January and February, Josh would return to the home 2 times to pack it up to be rented. He was not helping the police with anything. They had no idea where he camped. They don't know where he was between December 8th and the 10th, where he drove 800 miles in a rental car, and they had no fucking idea that he was staying back at his father, Steve's, in Puyallup. Eventually, Susan's friends told them, though. Chuck's theory on the 800 miles, well, he believes that he rented the car and he went to Puyallup and then turned around to head back to West Valley City because Steve reminded Josh that the boys were being babysat by with his sister, Jennifer, and Josh would lose custody. So he went back to get him. That's Chuck's theory on the 800 miles spent in a rental car. Now, eventually, police would get the lab test back for items collected from the home. Luminol testing found widespread traces of blood. There were 16 drops on the tile, but only a few were substantial enough to test. It was Susan's blood. The lab also tested the rags Josh had used to clean his car the night of December 7th. A latex glove, the attachments to the rug doctor, the back seat of the van, including a seat belt and charred debris found in a bag. There was either no other blood or not enough to test. They tested the couch for other substances on the theory that if Josh had strangled Susan, she might have urinated. That was negative. They also tested a pancake, a crepe-like food, in the kitchen garbage. This was because Josh had decided the night before to do his breakfast for dinner for the kids and for her, which was weird. But there was no sign of poison. So, of course, Susan had eaten the pancakes Josh had individually made for her. Test of the 2009 Ford Focus Josh had rented turned up, but none of Susan's DNA was there. The police kept all the findings to themselves, including that they found Susan's blood in the house, end quote. Now, this leaves the police another option. It's time to talk to Steve. Steve agreed to meet near Puyallup at a library, and they interviewed him for 2 hours, and they were very disturbed. From the beginning, Steve made it clear that he and Susan had a special relationship. This is Steve. I mean, she talked to me about her problems and even a little bit about her sex life. And I mean, she tended to be a little bit more open about stuff like that, you know? Steve said he hadn't seen Susan since February of 2009. And when she and Josh and I were together with the boys, it was perfect. She was always nice to me. She seemed to like me a lot. These people are very good Latter-day Saints, and I'm not. The cop, okay. I'm a dropout. Okay. I'm a bad influence on Josh. I could be a bad influence on their kids. Then the conversation went to Steve's favorite topic, which was his sexual obsession with Susan. So when she was living with me, she was very open sexually, and she liked to do things. Okay, let's just put it that way. And that would be, or what did you pick up on or notice in that way? You couldn't possibly miss it. I mean, she would wax her legs and, take a shower, and then would come into my office and say, feel how smooth they are. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's kind of titillating, Was there any sexual contact or any sexual relationship between you and Susan? I'm sorry to be blunt, but what other way to ask? We never had any actual, vaginal sex. Okay. Any kissing or touching or, oh yeah. Okay. One night she wanted me to massage her feet and legs and so on because she was kind. She had been standing up a lot that day, and I did it. And, I of course moved her feet to my crotch so she could feel, what she was doing to me. And that went on for about an hour. Steve told the police that he had finally told Susan that he loved him. I didn't want her to move to Utah, and I hoped that there was enough feeling there that she would stay. And she got really upset at me, and she would not talk to me for months. And it was the worst thing I ever did, and it was troubling. Steve couldn't even fathom her being with another man. He didn't want to think about it. He also expressed his feelings about learning that she was gone by saying, I was kind of just literally sick for a few days. I couldn't even function. So they asked Steve if they could go back to the house and search for her, and he obliged. Susan was not there, but he said, I wish she was there. While Steve was Josh's biggest defender, though, through this whole fucking ordeal, in the beginning, he said that he found Josh's alibi a little fishy. But after talking to Josh, he changed his mind. After moving back to Puyallup, Washington, Josh Powell basically kept up with his usual routine. He was still living with his dad. He was still dealing with the custody of stuff for his kids because the Coxes were not happy with his move to Washington. They wanted to be able to see their grandchildren, and Josh was starting to make things difficult. Even though there was a lot of attention on him, he didn't really help out with the investigation into Susan's disappearance, and sometimes he talked to the media. I mean, there was a full-on media circuit of this shit. I mean, videos, interviews. He was on all types of morning shows and news shows and all this other shit, but it didn't really change anyone's mind about him. He kind of kept Susan's family at an arm's length too, which didn't help his case. Because it's kind of like, why wouldn't you rally together with the family of the person that you claim that you miss oh so much? So they decided to do what's called a hunk and wave, where, people stand out, they wear t-shirts, they hold up signs, and they tell people to hunk in support of, whomever it is, whatever the cause is. It's called a hunk and wave. And this was important because he figured that both, the Powells are fucking narcissistic. So to pressure Josh to come out and to openly say some angrily incriminate himself was going to possibly create some probable cause. Chuck is not a fucking idiot. By any metric. Chuck's not an idiot. Overall, his behavior after coming back to Puyallup didn't make people any less suspicious about what happened to Susan. His kids were starting to act up as well. Charlie had once been to Sunday school, and a teacher said that she would tell his mom and dad that he was being bad. And Charlie looked at her and he said, "My mom's dead." The kids were starting to break character. It was obvious that the boys knew something. And at this time, Josh is also telling people that he is no longer a person of interest, which is absolutely not fucking true. An encounter with the boys prompted Chuck to contact the police again and ask them to interview the boys. "Do you know what happened to Mommy?" "It's a big secret," said Charlie. Jennifer Graves, Josh's sister, even elected to wear a wire and asked Josh, her father, and her other siblings if they had anything to do with Susan's disappearance. Now that the investigators were looking at Steve's actions were unrelated to Susan's disappearance, but they added another layer to the complexity to this ongoing saga. Law enforcement officials discovered several concerning items and pieces of evidence at Steve Powell's fucking house in Utah. And some of the key findings include thousands of images of women and girls, including Susan Powell, taken without their knowledge or their consent. These images were captured through voyeuristic means, such as hidden cameras and peepholes. They also found videotapes, recordings featuring invasive footage of women and girls in various states of undress, including images of Susan Powell. They also found detailed journals and documentation showing his voyeuristic activities. These records provided insight into the extent of his obsession and the systematic nature of his behavior. Then they found correspondence between he and Susan Powell, including letters and emails. Now, these communications reveal Steve's inappropriate and boundary-crossing interactions with his daughter-in-law. They found all types of porn, images, and recordings, voyeuristics, found pornographic material, including explicit images and videos, which further demonstrated his troubled interests and behaviors. They also discovered his obsession with fucking Susan Powell. There were 4,500 images of this woman taken without her knowledge. In Steve Powell's house, they found Ziploc bags filled with hair, cotton swabs with her fucking nail polish on it, Q-tips, sanitary napkins. There were traces of her blood on shit. All types of personal items of hers that he had been collecting and naming and dating the Ziploc bags and shit. Like, he literally cataloged everything. And on September 22nd, 2011, Steve Powell was arrested on charges of voyeurism and child pornography, with evidence indicating that he secretly recorded young girls and women, including Susan Powell. Josh Powell was identified as the subject in the investigation. But following Stephen Powell's arrest, Susan's father filed for custody of her children, which, did I say Susan Powell or Susan's father? Whatever. Following Steve's arrest, Susan's father filed for custody of her children, which a Washington court granted temporarily to him. This stipulated that Josh would need to move out of Steve's home in order to get custody of his kids. So Josh decided to rent a house in South Hill, but allegedly he never moved in. Chuck would later find out that the boys had been sleeping with Josh in the nude, and Josh was nude as well. "Who told you it's okay to be naked?" Chuck asked. "Our daddy," the boys answered. In late 2011, Josh's sister, Jennifer Graves, voiced her belief that Josh was definitely responsible for Susan's disappearance. However, Elena later withdrew her suspicions, feeling Josh was being wrongfully targeted. Josh underwent court-ordered evaluations, which highlighted concerns about his behavior, including overbearing tendencies with his children and defensiveness attributed to media and police attention. In January of 2012, the West Valley City Police found a computer at the Powell family home containing images of simulated child pornography. While not legal, while not illegal because they're simulated, these findings raised concerns, given Josh's previous denial of possessing such material. Like, he was basically like, no, of course not. I'm a good dad. I mean, because at this time, while Josh is in Palouse, he's acting like the doting husband just looking for his wife. And he's acting like the father who's just trying to figure things out while his fucking wife is gone. Meanwhile, he's secretly a goddamn pervert too. And he's a pervert because he grew up his entire life with another pervert. There are home videos that I saw in a documentary where the father was like opening a Christmas gift. And they were like, guess what it is? And he was like, porn. He's a fucking creep. The father's a fucking creep. Now, they wanted Josh to take a PPG, which is a penile plethysmograph. There we go. That's to measure the blood flow to the penis to test his arousal when exposed to normal sex and deviant sex. And he completely did not want to take that test. They wanted to psychosexually analyze Josh because he was likely abusing these boys. There is no reason for a grown fucking man to be laying butt ass naked in a bed with two naked boys. There will never be there's no game that requires that. There's nothing that's going to require that, right? And we could say easily that it's learned behavior, but given Braden and Charlie's escalation in like aggressive behavior in a way, like they were starting to act out, the truth of it is their slip was starting to show, because I think those boys knew more than they felt comfortable saying because they were trying to protect themselves and protect their father, the person that they were supposed to love. Even though there's the likelihood that they knew that they did something to their mommy. But what they know is their mommy is no longer there to protect them, and their father is dangerous. Wouldn't you shut the fuck up? Sip. Excuse me. These kids aren't old. You know? I think when you think about it, to be that young and to have that much going on, because the oldest son was 7 and the youngest son was 5. That's fucking young. That's very young to endure this much, bullshit. So the kids were originally the foster children of the Coxes. The state had granted Josh supervised visits with the social worker. Now you're probably asking why. They're investigating him to a certain extent with all this, extra shit, the shit that he found on his computer. His father's a creep. He's refusing to do psychoanalytical testing to see if he's fucking, if his dick gets hard when he sees children. He's refusing to do everything. He's refusing to help with find Susan. He's not telling them any of the details. All the circumstantial evidence against this man has built up so fucking much that to me, it would be obviously that this motherfucker should not be around these kids. That is it. If you told him originally that he needed to get out of the house of Stephen Powell, and then you later found out that he is also damn near the same as Stephen Powell, like minus the voyeurism, he could possibly be a predator. Why would you be like, oh, but he gets some supervised visits though. That's cool. On February 5th, 2012, social worker Elizabeth Griffin Hall made a distress call to 911. After an incident at the Josh Powell residence in South Hill.
I'm on a supervised visitation for a court-ordered visit, and something really weird has happened. I'm really shocked, and I could hear one of the kids crying, but he still wouldn't let me in. And I'd like to pull out of the driveway because I smell gasoline, and he won't let me in. Okay, how long will it be?
I don't know, ma'am. They have to respond to emergency, life-threatening situations first.
This could be life-threatening. He went to court on Wednesday, and he didn't get his kids back, and this is really, I'm afraid for their lives. He exploded the house. Ma'am? Yeah, he exploded the house. He blew up the house and the kids. The kid and the father were in the house? Yes, he slammed the door in my face. So I kept knocking. I thought it was a mistake. I kept knocking, and then I called 911.
She had taken Charlie and Braden, Josh's sons, for a supervised visit. Mind you, the Coxes had decorated these boys' room. They were ready to move in. Everything was ready. She was taking them on a supervised visit. It was normal. She was also alone. She was not being escorted. Chuck had advised, one, she should be escorted because Josh is bigger than this little woman and he's going to fuck her up. If he could fuck her up. If he wanted to harm the kids, if he wanted to harm her and then harm the kids, she needs someone there, a sheriff's deputy, somebody, police escort. But when she got there, Josh took the kids and slammed the door in her face. She calls 911. That's the clip you just heard. Tragically, right after, the house explodes, resulting in the deaths of Josh and both of his sons. Local authorities treated the case as a double murder suicide, suggesting that the act was intentional. When they found the bodies of Braden and Charlie in the rubble, because obviously the house had been engulfed in flames. So once they were able to get in, they found Charlie and Braden's body burned, but they also saw that there had been marks on the back of their necks, indicating that he had killed them prior. He had hit them with a hatchet. When informed of the incident, Steve Powell, who was incarcerated at the time, reacted with anger toward the authorities, displaying little apparent grief. Subsequently, he refused to answer questions about Susan's disappearance. He pled the fifth. Some, including Chuck Cox, believed that Steve had knowledge about Susan's fate. Steve was later convicted on voyeurism in a trial largely unrelated to Susan's case. Following a brief investigation, officials confirmed that the explosion had been premeditated. Carbon monoxide poison was determined as the official cause of death for Josh and the boys, with evidence suggesting that Josh attacked the children with a hatchet before succumbing to smoke and fumes, and they knew that because there was smoke in the lungs. The kids were still alive, so they died of asphyxiation. Gasoline cans were everywhere and spread gasoline throughout the house. Josh was actually sitting on a gasoline can, and what is very confusing to me is that his penis was exposed. I don't understand that part. You know, I had a conversation with my mom and she was like, was this bitch masturbating? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. But I will say that this book explicitly mentions that this man's penis was exposed when they found his body. It was deliberate. In the moments before the incident, Josh had emailed friends and relatives to bid farewell, directing them on financial matters and donating his possessions. And he also named his brother Michael as the main beneficiary to his life insurance policy, which he probably wouldn't have got anyway because they do not give the life insurance policy out to murder-suicide. Charles and Braden were laid to rest at Woodbine Cemetery alongside a memorial for their mother. Josh's remains were cremated. The Coxes were legally prepared to sue if the Powells even thought about having Josh buried next to those kids and next to the memorial of Susan. On February 11, 2013, approximately 1 year after the deaths of Josh Powell and his sons, Michael Powell took his own life in Minnesota by jumping off of a roof of a parking garage. And there's surveillance footage of him doing that. The last video of him is getting on an elevator, getting off an elevator, and then he plummeted. In 2012, police had questioned Michael multiple times about finding his car at a wrecking yard because they had actually took cadaver dogs out there, and the cadaver dogs got a hit on the back pieces of his car, the trunk pieces of his car, for a body. Michael remained a person of interest in the case, and the authorities had expressed their belief that both Josh and Michael were involved in Susan's murder. Finally, the West Valley City Police closed their active investigation in Susan's disappearance on May 21st, 2013. Steve Powell was released from prison on July 11, 2017, having served a full 7-year sentence following his convictions for voyeurism and child pornography. But then on July 23rd, 2018, he passed away from a heart condition in Tacoma, Washington. Eventually, in 2022, the Coxes were awarded $100 million after suing Washington State Department of Social and Health Services in a wrongful death suit for Charlie and Braden, because the state ignored the domestic violence guidelines that warned them of the children's lives being in danger. Of course, the judge tried to knock a portion of that $100 million down. The Coxes are contesting it, and so is Washington State. And that is the story of Susan Cox Powell. She was never found. I don't even know. There's so many possibilities for this. But the one I can say I rock with, I don't think Steve Powell had anything to do with it. Because personally, I do not think Steve Powell would have murdered her. I think Steve Powell would have fucking kidnapped her and held her hostage on some Colleen Stan shit before he killed her because he loved her too much. I believe that this is my theory. So I believe Josh Powell was starting to hate Susan with the help of Steve Powell. Josh knew that his father was obsessed with Susan. First of all, let's start with why they met. I believe that Josh Powell only married Susan because of his anti-Mormon hate. And he had no plans on working. And because of the Mormon tenet, he figured that she would do anything for her husband, and she did. She worked, and he did nothing. And that was supposed to be the plan. Because when you think about what happened in part 1, when Steve says to him, well, she's not a lawyer or a doctor, but she'll do. To me, that sounds like somebody who knows that a motherfucker's a loser and he don't need to work. Even Susan confirmed that. She says to her mom, oh, well, he's just basically saying like, it'll do because I'll be able to get work because Josh doesn't have to work. So the plan was for Josh not to work. But then Steve's obsession with Susan kicked in. And he became so obsessed with her that Josh started to get annoyed by it. Because it's his father. Instead of getting annoyed by his father, he gets annoyed by Susan. Now, whether or not Susan was actually into Steve, I don't know. She moved to fucking Utah. That tells me she wasn't. Because, I mean, ultimately, Mormons get down. If she wanted to, she probably could have had both the motherfuckers. Or they could have had her. Whatever. I don't know how that shit really works. But I think in grand scheme, possibly she was feeding into some creepy flirtations for a minute because she was being nice, and then she realized that he was way too serious and he was picking up the wrong shit, and so she started to get more creeped out. Then she realized that she was being watched, and then that started to creep out even more. It's one thing to be flirting with somebody intentionally inappropriate. It's kind of like having a work husband, right? Like your work husband is cool until he started doing some weird shit and like trying to do shit after work. You know what I mean? Like, oh, wait a minute now, you only supposed to be here, you know? And while that's her father-in-law, you know, which is disgusting, maybe she engaged in it, maybe she didn't. I don't know. But considering her journal entries, I would say she was pretty disgusted by Steve, and she was trying to get away from his ass. Josh was getting increasingly more frustrated with his father's obsession with her, but he was also he started to talk to his father again, which was upsetting Susan, because Susan even said that he was increasingly becoming more aggressive every time he spoke to Steve. So I can see Josh finally getting fed up with Susan, possibly because she finally told him that she had plans on leaving. And considering there is no body, there's no way to tell whether or not he poisoned her, because he did feed her that day. So even though they had all types of chemicals in the house. He had her buying all types of farming chemicals and all types of shit. He could have put something in something she drank. He didn't have to put it in the pancake, right? But I do find it odd that the night before she disappears, he's being really fucking nice. He's cooking. Josh Powell cooking? Asking her if she wants a blanket because she's cold. And a friend specifically notated this because she thought that was sweet. But that is not what Josh does. He was being unusually kind. When an abuser is being unusually kind, And then I think he killed her at home, hence the blood. If it was poison, it's likely she vomited. Maybe that's why the stain was on the couch. Maybe she vomited, or she foamed at the mouth or something like that. Maybe there was bleeding because there were a few droplets. I don't think he dismembered her or anything like that. I think he took her body. He got the boys in the car and he did something with her body. And I believe Charlie that it was probably in Dinosaur National Park and not in Simpson Springs. I think it was Dinosaur National Park. He said that mommy is where the crystals are. Took her there. Probably buried her. Which is the reason why his hands were so red and frostbitten and dry and cracked. Because he probably spent all fucking night digging a hole. And then he came back hours later, claiming that he went camping. I think the brother has something to do with it. Because at first I thought even talking about it right now, at first I was like, oh, well, Josh probably did it. But then I was like, or the brother did it. But when you think about it, the brother lived with the father in Washington. I mean, unless he orchestrated that and had him meet him halfway in that cheap ass, that old ass 1997 Ford Taurus, which is possible. But the boys never mentioned Michael being there. So I don't know where Michael falls in this. But what we do know is that at some point, Michael's car was involved. Because when he and his sister decide to come back to Utah to distract the press while Josh flees to Puyallup, he scraps the car for $100. And the cadaver dolls do smell a cadaver in the trunk. So, and why would he kill himself? If I'm not mistaken, Michael was a college student. Why would he kill himself? Okay, your brother's a murderer. Your father's a pervert. That's embarrassing, but shit, we don't know nothing about you. Why would you kill yourself? And why did you scrap that car? Is it likely that he buried it somewhere and then told his brother, I need you to go back and get that body because they searching that area? Reminds me of not the toy box killer, the duct tape killer. He went back to go pick up the body because they started to search. I don't know what the sister knows. I think Steve knew something after the fact, and then he just tried to recover for his family. Because he was Josh's biggest supporter, even when he kind of probably felt that he was guilty. And he was probably already cursed him out for killing the love of his life. So that's my theory. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I'll be back week after next with another episode 10. We got 10 more episodes left, y'all. Just a heads up, I will likely take off the month of May again, just so you're aware in advance, because my birthday is in late April. Last summer I did that and it was a nice little break from trauma. And it gave me the opportunity to go on a trip and enjoy my birthday and enjoy the summer and shit like that. So I'm gonna probably do that again. And I know it's only March, so I know, but I'm preemptively telling you that because just in case I forget to post about it on social media for those that listen. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous fucking week. And I'm tipsy as fuck. And R.I.P. to Susan Powell, Braden Powell, Charlie Powell, fuck Steve Powell, and Josh Powell. I don't even know how to feel about Mike Powell. And I'm sorry for Susan Cox's parents if my last episode was rude. I want to redeem myself for that. And St. Patty's Day is coming up. I hope y'all plan on getting litty because I know I'm planning on getting fucked up. No, I'm just joking. I probably will be fucked up though. So I'll see y'all next week. All right. Love you. Mean it.